Alright, it's the last day of the year, so it's time for an account tour. And I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised when I checked my total account value this morning. I didn't really set any in-game goals, so I had no idea how much my account had grown this year. Turns out I managed to more than double my value from just under 120k to just under 260k gold since the middle of January. I sadly can't compare it to the last day of last year, so this'll have to do. When we exclude Gemstore purchases, there's an increase of around 70k gold value. Most of the Gemstore stuff is probably bag and shared inventory slots, equipment and build tabs, and I think a few bank tabs. I should have kept better track of this, but most of my purchases this year were about quality of life. One thing I did not do, and I really plan on doing next year, is keeping better track of the gold to gem exchange rates. This year, I mainly exchanged gold to gems whenever something I wanted was on sale, but I'm gonna wager a guess and say those were probably the worst times to have done so. Coming back to convenience, this year I crafted a ton of legendary gear. I started the year with only heavy legendary armor, and I managed to finish the 2 other sets as well as 7 runes and 4 sigils. I also finished all of my legendary trinkets, but I gotta say the rings were brutal. Especially the moment I realized I was still missing 5 gifts of battle to finish Conflux. Ad Infinitum, on the other hand, was a really pleasant surprise. That one took me roughly 2 weeks to finish, as I already had most of the currency I needed. I also managed to craft a legendary weapon for each slot, and even a few duplicates for weapons that can be dual wielded. The only two that I'm still missing are a second axe and mace. I still have a legendary starter kit to craft a moot a second time, but I think I'm gonna go for the Gen 3 skins instead. Next year, I hope to get all Arena legendaries, so I have 30 more to craft, and if I can, I'll try to unlock all of the variants as well. I postponed crafting those for the longest time, but now that I've made a few, I'm kind of hooked on the animations. I will run the numbers and try and optimize my process a little, and if I can, I'll share it in a video next week. I've been acquiring jade runestones, ambergris, and a few of the other items by changing up my routine, and this has significantly reduced the cost of the 3 I already crafted. I will focus more on YouTube and from March onwards on streaming next year, so I'm not sure how feasible it will be to unlock all of them, but we'll see. I can probably document some of my new methods, locations and routines and show those to anyone who wants to craft along with me. Now, let's also take a look at my actual in-game characters. I don't have a ton of character slots. I have one for each profession that have all build and equipment templates unlocked, and most of them also have at least 10 bag slots. That's the quality of life I usually focus on. I do have a second warrior, revenant, thief and necromancer at max level, mainly because I wasn't sure what race I wanted them to be. I kind of hate that I only made my first char after 10 years, because now I want to remake most of my characters after having seen how smooth the animations are and how detailed some of their skins and outfits are. I do also have a bank alt, but that character slot was gifted to me by someone I craft items for so they can buy provisioner tokens. And I try to keep one slot open so I can farm my weekly Black Lion key. Even though this year I haven't played my Mesmer and Necromancer the most, they're probably the nearest and dearest to my heart. My Necro actually turned 11 years old this week, and my Mesmer will do so next week. It's kind of crazy to think about that they're more than a decade old now. The Mesmer was my only character I finished map completion with back before any of the expansions were released, so there was no gliding or mounts, and Mesmer was probably the worst class to explore the world on. Now they have permanent swiftness with Signet of Inspiration, but back in the day that Signet only gave you a random boon, not swiftness plus a random one. So I mainly had to rely on focus 4 and teleporting backwards with my staff to cover ground more quickly. I now have explored Corteria on all of my level 80s, as well as most expansion zones on all of my characters. I am missing a few of the expansion zones on some of them, but I do a zone every now and then whenever I feel like it. The one thing I really should be doing is parking some of my character near chests, especially the ones I really don't play anymore. If you look at my bank tabs and material storage, they're rather empty, but that's normal for me. I usually craft a legendary item whenever I have most of the materials to do so. There have been a few exceptions, mainly when I was recording my material farms, as I would get more materials than I could spend. But in general, I try to not hang on to materials or gold too long as I can still craft items that all of my characters can use. My bank tabs themselves are mostly account bound items. The weirdest is probably all of the luck I've saved. I maxed out my account luck sometime around summer this year, so I've been saving up exotic luck to trade in for some silver during Lunar New Year. I have about 2.5 million right now, so I'm probably gonna have to spend a day clicking whenever the event comes around. I also have quite a few of Infinite Gathering tools. Some of them were purchased before they became account bound, and others I simply bought throughout the years, usually whenever they were introduced. I do still plan on saving up enough gold to convert to gems to buy every single skin in the game, as I still want to research their casting speed and make a video about them. Before doing so, I'll need to find a way to measure the exact casting speeds, because I don't want to count frame by frame myself, which would be prone to human error anyway. The person who originally documented the casting animations 5 years ago made his own tool for arc DPS, but I have no clue how to do that myself, so I'll probably need to look into that before I buy any of the other tools. I also have a bank tab that's kind of embarrassing to me. Prior to my burnout, I hadn't played for quite some time, so when I came back to the game, I looked at what currencies and items I had because I wanted a bit more gold. One of the things I found was spending dungeon tokens on account-bound items to craft certain rings and trinkets. So I immediately spent all of my tokens before realizing all of the items I wanted to craft require an account-bound recipe that's a really rare drop from dungeon. That was also the exact moment I decided I would first start researching methods before spending any resources. Another thing I wanted to do this year was complete my home instance. I actually got all of the gathering nodes bar 3, but the 3 final ones I can buy on the trading post, so that's only a matter of time. I only have one of the cats unlocked, so I kinda wanna unlock the 34 others next year. Actually, next year I'm gonna try to work my way through some of the achievements as well. It's something I've never really put any effort into, but I've had a lot of fun this year chasing some of the achievements down, and it often introduced me to areas of the game I actually had no clue about. When I start streaming, I will probably even dedicate some time to the harder to get achievements and invite anyone who wants to come along to join me. It'll probably make for some entertaining streams, and it'll be cool if we can all help each other out. One major thing I really want to focus on in 2024 in-game is the guild. I'm genuinely happy to see how a community is building around the YouTube channel and in Discord as well, so I'd like to make an in-game space for anyone who wants to join us. I'll probably need some help with some of the guild missions, but that could be a great opportunity for anyone who still needs guild commendations to buy some items or unlock a few other things. And once things get going, I'll look into organizing things such as guild raids, maybe some World v World, or even a PvP team. I'm not really sure I can manage all of that alone, but we'll cross that bridge once we get to it. Before I sign off, I really want to thank each and every single one of you from the bottom of my heart. I didn't know what to expect when I published my first video back in April, but all of the support I've been getting from all of you in the comments, as well as the likes, the people subscribing, has really been amazing for me. I explained my story in my previous video, so I won't rehash it, but I do want to keep publishing 3 or 4 videos every single week, and my dream goal is even to publish 1 per day. I will start streaming around March, or even a bit earlier if possible, and I really hope we can all hang out together and have a fun time during those as well. So yeah, thank you, and a very happy new year.